The Ethiopian Bible is a true literary and spiritual enigma. While most people are familiar with the 66 works that make up the King James Bible, few know that the Ethiopian Bible contains an impressive 88 books. It's like discovering a secret library within a text you thought you already knew. These additional texts, including ancient Old Testament scrolls, expand narratives and bring forth forgotten perspectives. Can you imagine what these hidden chapters might reveal about spirituality and history? The books within the Ethiopian Bible, such as Enoch and Jubilees, offer a fresh prism through which to view religious events and values. It's like uncovering a new version of a classic we already love, but with more layers of depth and mystery. For those seeking answers or even new questions about faith, these texts are like maps to uncharted territories of belief. If you think you know everything about biblical stories, this work could shift your perception entirely. Even more impressive is how this collection has survived the test of time and adversity. Imagine manuscripts preserved for generations in isolated monasteries, escaping wars, fires, and even attempts at historical erasure. It's as if the very existence of these texts is a miracle, a silent reminder that certain truths must be safeguarded. Their survival invites us to question what else might be hidden in the sands of time. But the real challenge here is the impact this unique composition has on our understanding of what we consider sacred. How did different cultures choose the texts that shape their beliefs? Which stories were omitted or forgotten? Now that you've glimpsed this historical treasure, let's dive deeper into the roots of Ethiopian tradition and discover its role in the global Christian landscape. Ethiopia's Christian history is a legacy of resistance and authenticity that few nations can claim. Imagine a country that adopted Christianity in the 4th century, long before it spread across the world. This was no accident, but evidence of a civilization deeply connected to its spiritual roots. Unlike many nations that received Christianity through external influences, in Ethiopia, it blossomed from within, like a plant growing in fertile and protected soil. What's most fascinating is how this faith shaped the identity of the country. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, considered one of the oldest organized Christian institutions in the world, stands as a cultural and spiritual pillar that has withstood the test of time. Think of a church that not only survived but thrived through millennia of global changes and conflicts. It's not just history, it's a living example of how faith can be an anchor in times of uncertainty. And it doesn't stop there. Ethiopia's openness to welcoming Christian refugees during periods of persecution in other parts of the world, as recorded in the 6th century, shows the country's commitment to values like hospitality and compassion. It's like looking through a window into the past and seeing lessons of solidarity that remain relevant today. What other country can take pride in such a legacy? Perhaps the most intriguing aspect is how Ethiopia managed to preserve this uniqueness, while Christianity evolved differently in other parts of the world. This independent trajectory makes us reflect on how beliefs can be shaped in distinct ways by cultural contexts. Now that you understand Ethiopia's historical role in Christianity, let's uncover the cultural mysteries safeguarded by its scriptures. The Ethiopian Bible is not just a religious text. It is a cultural artifact that encapsulates centuries of history, belief, and tradition. It preserves books like Enoch and Jubilees, excluded from many other Christian canons, but which carry profound significance for Ethiopian theology and spirituality. Think of it as a work that offers an alternative perspective on stories many already consider familiar, challenging dominant narratives and rewriting our understanding of faith. The cultural influence of the Ethiopian Bible goes beyond the written word. It reflects itself in art, music, and spiritual practices that stand out for their authenticity and originality. A powerful example is the illustrated manuscripts found in monasteries atop remote mountains, as if they were guardians of an ancestral secret. This connection between text and cultural expression brings something to life that could otherwise be just another book. Another fascinating point is how Ethiopian traditions keep the practices of their ancestors alive. Religious ceremonies are still conducted in Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language, preserving a direct connection to the historical roots of Christianity in the country. These practices, passed down from generation to generation, offer a rare opportunity to experience the past in the present. Imagine attending one of these ceremonies and feeling the weight and beauty of this historical continuity. And then, there's the global impact. Even with its unmistakable legacy, the Ethiopian Bible and its associated culture remain largely unknown outside Ethiopia. This makes us question, what else can history offer if we know where to look? If you're curious about how these cultural differences have shaped views of Christianity, wait until we explore what biblical authenticity has to say. The question of biblical authenticity is a topic that stirs both mind and heart for anyone who delves into it. Imagine that in the early centuries of Christianity, multiple versions of what we now call the Bible were circulating, each with its own books and interpretations. It was only at councils like Nicaea in 325 AD that the Church began standardizing what would be considered authentic. But what about the Ethiopian Bible, which remained outside this process? Perhaps it holds truths that many never had the chance to know. The differences between canons are not limited to content, but also to the purpose behind the decisions. For instance, many works were excluded for political reasons, not necessarily spiritual ones. This leads us to question, who decides what is or isn't inspired by God? The Ethiopian Bible, by preserving texts deemed apocryphal by other traditions, raises the question of which voices were silenced and why. A powerful reflection for any seeker of truth. Another intriguing aspect is how these choices have impacted the faith of generations. By excluding certain texts, some traditions may have lost teachings that could enrich their understanding of spirituality. It's as if parts of the story were erased, leaving gaps that we are only now beginning to fill. Imagine what could be discovered by revisiting these works with a renewed perspective. Wouldn't it be an incredible opportunity to expand our view of faith and religion? But perhaps the biggest challenge is this. What makes a text sacred? The spiritual connection it provides? Its coherence with other texts? Or the recognition of religious authority? These questions lead us directly to the issue of language barriers and how they influence access to knowledge. Let's delve deeper into that next. The Ge'ez language, in which the Ethiopian Bible was written, is one of the greatest challenges for those seeking to explore its wisdom. This ancient language, no longer spoken in daily life, acts as a gateway to a world of knowledge preserved in secrecy. However, its complexity makes it difficult for non-specialists to access the texts directly. It's like finding a treasure-filled vault, but lacking the key to open it. This linguistic barrier also highlights how translation can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, translating the Ethiopian Bible into modern languages could open doors for millions worldwide. On the other hand, there's always the risk of losing nuances and profound meanings that only the original language can convey. An example of this lies in poetic texts, where the structure and word choice carry both literal and symbolic meanings. Additionally, the translation process faces another obstacle: cultural context. Ethiopia has unique traditions that shaped how the texts were written and interpreted. Without this background, many meanings can be misunderstood or entirely overlooked. It's like trying to understand a joke without knowing its context. Something is lost, and the impact isn't the same. Translators, therefore, are not just linguists. They become cultural bridges between distinct worlds. This translation challenge also reflects a broader point: how we access and share knowledge. What is more important, fidelity to the original or accessibility? As we reflect on this, think about the impact that wider translation could have on disseminating the Ethiopian Bible and increasing global understanding of its history and significance. After all, with its impressive numbers and long traditions, this Bible remains a true mystery waiting to be unveiled.